are in duties of the heart. And again, we're on page 43. There you go. And we're talking about the wholehearted devotion of all of our acts. It's, like I said, when we're going to serve God, we want to serve Hashem with all of Hashem. For those who, okay, God, that's how I say it. For Hashem, the way you want to always serve Hashem is because it's Hashem you're doing it for, not for some want of reward or whatever else you're going to do. The most of the times that people follow the mitzvot, follow the commandments, is because, let's face it, we want a reward, right? Why do you go to work? Because you want a paycheck. Why do we do commandments? Because we expect something in the end. But really, as we've been learning all the way through this book, God doesn't owe us a darn thing. The mere fact that we were born, that we breathe, that we can walk, we owe God so much that we could never do anything that would actually repay God. And I've used this many times, just like you guys, you can never fully repay your parents. None of us can, okay? Because our parents give us everything, gave us life, as it were, and supported us. And with all the money they spent in your diapers, okay, you can't earn that money back. You'll find out when you have children what I'm talking about. And also all those endless hours that we spent while you guys weren't feeling good. Or with the mental anguish that we went under when you went to your first day of school. Well, you don't go to school. when you would have gone to school, when you're going to college, when you're going to meet people. Oh, your father's shining up his gun, getting ready for the first time the guy comes home and says, I want to go with your daughter. And he's saying, no, not going to happen, right? Okay, that's what happens. So everything we're doing, though, should be for the sake of God. So when I work out, I should not be working out so I could be a Mr. Universe. I should be working out because I want to serve God. And in order to serve God, I have to be healthy. So that's where we're going with this, okay? So he says, on the enticement of the evil inclination, the Yetzer, I think it proper, he says, to illustrate this. By the way, the author is Rav Bachya Ibn Pekuda. Okay, so when I sing he, that's who's talking. So I think it proper to illustrate this matter to you with examples which will be representative of all the rest, not mentioned here, so the people may be weary of them and serve God wholeheartedly. As the wise one, King Solomon, said, that a wise man may hear and add to his knowledge, and that a man of understanding acquire perceptiveness. By the way, if you don't understand something, you just have to ask, okay? I'll answer to the best of my ability. I say then, oh man, you should know that the greatest enemy you have in the world is your own evil impulse, which is interwoven with the powers of your soul, intertwined in the character of your spirit, associated with you in governing your senses and spiritual faculties, privy to the secrets of your soul and to what is hidden deep inside of you, your counselor, and in all your willful movements, whether observable or concealed. It lies in wait to entice you at every step. You are unaware of it, but it is aware of you. You are unmindful of it, but it is not unmindful of you. So, for the old cartoons, you have the good angel and the one with the pitchfork. Right? Okay. The bottom line is that your Yetzer, your evil inclination, is the one that drives us to do what we're going to do. In other words, it drives us to want to go to work. If it's just a good inclination, as it were, so I'm not going to do a lot of things. I won't work for my wife. I'm just going to, as a worker, okay? I'm not going to worry that much about my wife, who's home, taking care of the home fires, okay? I'm not going to do that because I'm going to be more concentrated on serving God, right? But evil inclination will tell you you have to take care of the other person because she'll do something for you. Fine. There's no question about that. But the bottom line is that's what drives me to have kids. That's what drives me to do certain things. So my evil inclination is really a bad translation sometimes. But that is really a very important part of us. We need both to make us strong and to make us grow. Okay, so we have to be aware of it, and we have to check what we're doing and say, why am I doing this particular thing? And hopefully I'm going to strengthen my good inclination that is going to control my evil inclination to do what needs to do. And I give an example. When it comes to coming to morning services, in this wonderful area, sunrise is 5 at this point. Right. Okay, so when you're waking up at 7 in the morning to get ready for services, it's so hard because you're thinking it's dark, it's in the middle of the night, and you look at your clock and it says 7:15, fine. You have to get out of bed. Well, it's really hard. It's hard, especially in the winter. It's cold, and your Yetzer Hara is saying, you can sleep a little longer. Don't worry. And that's what my Yetzer Torah has to say. You could sleep longer, but if you get to the shul first, they'll think that you're such a righteous guy. Okay. And so on and so forth. So it knows how to they know how to work with each other to get you out of the bed. Okay, so it clothes itself in the garb of friendship for you, adorns itself with the adornment of love for you. It joins the circle of your confidants, your counselors, choicest friends, and seems eager to do your will, as indicated in its outward movements and gestures. But in fact, it is shooting deadly arrows at you to uproot you from the land of the living. As Scripture says, that someone of this nature, like a madman who shoots firebrands and deadly arrows, so is the man who deceives his neighbor and says, I only did it in sport, I only did it in fun. It's all for that. So again, we have to know that our Yetzer Hara, while it's there and it will motivate us to do certain things, like I said, we still have to be able to control it. And the only way we're going to control it is by constantly being vigilant to say, why am I doing what I'm about to do? That's important. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Otherwise, it's like I said, you'll look like a righteous person to the outside world, but you'll still, you're doing it all for the wrong reasons. And that's the Yetzer Hara. That's the power of the Yetzer Hara. Okay? So the most powerful of its weapons, which it hurls at you and which it assaults you from innermost beings, is its attempt to sow doubt in your mind about true notions, confound you in what has been clear to you, and confuse your soul with mistaken notions and false arguments. It thereby distracts you from your true interests and causes you to doubt confirmed doctrines and beliefs. What happens? You see somebody, the famous question of why, when bad things happen to good people, okay? You saw something happen to somebody you consider a good person. Okay? So what happens? Now your Yetzer Hara is saying, well, why'd that happen? That person was a righteous person. I know that person. I'm holding by that person, so on and so forth. And what happens? You start saying, well, I guess God made a mistake. Oh. Or you create a devil. Or you do whatever you want. But it's wrong. That's the Yetzer Hara talking to you. Because it's saying, well, God's only good. And that person's good. So if that's true, either God's a liar and he's punishing for no reason, or God's out of control. That's another one we like to throw at people. He's not in control, and so on and so forth. But the answer is, how do you know that person's good? You think he's good. But how do you know what's going on? You don't know. God knows. God sees the innermost thoughts. God's the one who can judge, not us. Again, we see something, and it's like watching TV. You know, you're just seeing one part of it. But if you see the backstory, then you say, oh, that's why that had to happen. But we're puny. Let's face it, we don't know that much. So we just see what we see, and we make judgments on that. Well, that's not fair. But Yetzer Hara is working with that and saying that's what you see is exactly what is true. And that's not true. So that's really important. Okay? If you will be wary of it and have ready the weapons of your understanding with which to fight it and turn its arrows away from you, you will be delivered from it and will escape it with God's help. But if you abandon all of your interest to it and follow its lead, it will not let you alone until it has destroyed you in both worlds and uprooted you from both abodes. As is written in one of its branches, as is written of one of his branches, one of its soldiers, for she has cast down many dead. A great many are those that she has killed. Her house is the way to the netherworld, leading down to the chambers of death. So, therefore, let no one struggle. Let no other struggle divert you from your struggle with it. Let no other battle divert you from your battle with it. Do not let conflict with one who is far from you keep you from combating that which is inseparable from you. Do not let the repulsion of one who can reach you only with permission keep you from repelling that which need not ask permission in order to be with you. She says, there's a story told of a pious man who met a group of people returning with the spoils of war after vanquishing their enemy in a fierce battle. He said to them, you have returned victoriously from a minor struggle. Now prepare yourselves for the major struggle. Here they come back. They beat the people, and the guy is downplaying their victory. Saying it was a minor victory. Now get ready. So they say, and what's the major struggle, they ask him? The struggle with the evil inclination and his armies, he said to them. You don't want to hear that when you're coming back from war. Okay? It's an amazing thing, my brother. As any other foe, when you defeat him once or twice, will leave you alone and give up the idea of attacking you. Aware of your superior strength, he loses hope of ever defeating and overpowering you. Now, that, I don't know, I'll ask you, have you found that to be true? In your experience, you beat somebody once or twice, 3 times. Do they don't come back to you?
What are you talking about?
In a fight.
But let's say if you're a kid in school or something and a bully beats you up and you finally muster up enough strength to actually hit him back and you knock him down. I remember from a kid once, and I was a kid, I think in grade school, there was, I probably told you the story once before, but there was big kid. I mean, this guy, I think it was like 5th or 6th grade. He was really big for his size. You're talking 11 or 12 years old. And he'd pick on almost everybody. And he picked on one skinny kid and another skinny kid, even smaller, really short. I mean, he jumped up off the ground and just like this with him. And this big kid never bothered anybody again. So he figured he met his match.
Okay.
So, I think that's what he's saying. Huh?
Right. So I remember, the reason I asked you questions, I remember I was playing street hockey a long, long time ago. Do you guys know what street hockey is? Good, okay. So, you know what high sticking is? When you go out too high with your stick and you bring it down? Apparently that's illegal. I didn't know that. I'm not a hockey player. But I'm rough on the field, what can I tell you? And so one of the kids didn't like what I was doing, so he decided to want to fight with me. Wasn't a smart idea. I was bigger and heavier than him, and so I put him down. Well, the guy got up. He wanted to attack me again. So I put him down again. And he wouldn't stop. I said, you know what? I'm stopping this. I'm leaving. I don't want to do this anymore. Leave me alone. But it's he kept coming. It was like a you know, the little dog.
Whack-a-mole?
What was that? Yeah. Kept coming back. So, you know, that would be my only question. I've met some people who never give up because they won't be defeated sort of thing. And then you have the other stories where the person will get, one hit and that's the end of it.
Okay, so that was a game, but God forbid, if this, let's say, is a real street fight and the little guy keeps coming back, sooner or later, the guy he's attacking, the big guy, is going to kill him.
Right.
Well,
like I said, so I'm not sure. I hate to argue with Rabbachi on this such a thing, but it's like I said. I think that many times you'll find people who will not give up, and that is comparable to and that's why he says the evil inclination, however, will not leave you alone after 1 or even 100 defeats, regardless of whether it defeats you or you defeat it. For if it defeats you, it will ultimately utterly destroy you. And if you defeat it once, it will lie in wait for you in order, all of your life, in order to subdue you. As the masters of blessed memory said, do not be sure of yourself until the day of your death. So this is something important for us all to remember. We all think that once we've conquered one of our incorrect desires, okay, that we're safe because we've done it once, twice, even 1,000 times. But the bottom line is, what the rabbis tell us is, you can't be sure of yourself until the day of your death. You never know. You may think you conquered your anger, and for the most part you have, and then something happens and bang, you slip back to what you used to do. Or if a person is never, if a person who became religious later in life, we always think that, I'll pick on dietary laws. We always think that we'll never go back into McDonald's or whatever the food chain is. We all think that, but you can't be sure of it. Again, when you smell the French fries, when you smell the other foods, the pizza and so on and so forth, and you're really hungry, and you say, nobody's going to know. Nobody knows me here. Why can't I do it? Okay, now obviously God knows. But God will forgive me because he put it in front of me, right? He wants me to smell it. That's what you constantly have to fight sometimes. And when you think you no longer have to fight it, that's when you get caught.
Yeah, that's true. Because like water, I never had a problem. I would always drink 8 to 12 glasses of water.
Right?
Now I'm fighting to drink 6. So I never, that was like,
Correct.
That's
okay.
Not a big deal. But
Right.
now I'm going back and I have to count it and make sure, and I'm doing less, and it's just, a little thing of water.
Right.
So
that's a healthy thing you should be doing.
Right.
Right. That's what I'm saying. We always have to be, you can't be sure of yourself, and so on and so forth. I mean, throughout all of our life, we think we're doing right. We have to check ourselves every single time. And that's what we're being, that's the Yetzer Hara telling us you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. You're going to school, great job. That whole thing. And then what happens is you have to write papers. When you have to do the work of school, okay? In other words, when you're in classroom, right now you're in a classroom, right? If I'm guessing, right? You're starting your own. So once you go into the classroom, then they tell you, okay, the paper is due on December 12th, for argument's sake, okay? And they tell you, oh, you guys will do this. You're all in college, okay? So they tell you on September 30th, you have a paper due December 12th. I'm going to ask your parents, when did you start the paper?
December 11th.
December 11th, exactly. You say, whoa, I have to write this paper. Oh my God! Now, Baruch Hashem, we have internet. We have computers. It's not like the old days. How old are you?
41.
So you had the typewriters when you were younger?
We computers were
just starting.
Yeah.
But you had a typewriters for the most part. When you had type papers.
Did I have I don't think I ever had a typewriter.
Oh, okay, fine.
Word processor.
Word processor wasn't what we have today either. It wasn't what we have today. These things are fantastic. But the point is, you're going to wait till the last second because that's a Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara says, I have time. I have time. And then it comes back, boom! It gets you right out, and then you say, oh, I don't have time anymore. And so then you try to get an extension, so on and so forth, but, it doesn't work out well. But that's what he says, don't be sure of yourself till the day of your death. Okay, so he says, it does not consider the smallest of your fears as to as insignificant the means for overcoming you. A small matter serves it as a stepping stone to vanquish you in something higher. That you started off with water. Okay? Imagine where that can go. It's nothing. It's water. Big deal. Well, it beat you. So now if it beat you on something like that, which you know is good for you, and it's really not to throw eight bottles down. In reality, throughout the whole day.
You only need 4, so it's 16. So it's
whatever.
4 a day.
4 a day. Oh, so you were drinking twice as much?
Pardon me?
You were drinking 8 of those bottles?
No, I said 8 to 12 glasses.
Oh, okay, right. So it's nothing, right? So it's nothing to put that down. And yet your Yetzer is, it said, okay, I can't get her on this. I'll get her on this. And once it gets you, now it already got away. It's like a little fly. It's going to buzz, and it's going to get you, and it's going to expand. And who knows what, if you don't control that, who knows what's going to happen. So that's what's going on. He said, you should be then weary and fulfill none of its requests. Regard as important the very smallest of your victories over it, the slightest increase of your power over it, so that this be for you a step to a greater victory. For the evil inclination will be quick to obey you and will not stand up to you when you stand up to it. As it says, its obedience is unto you, and you may rule over it. That's from when what's his name? God was talking to Cain, who killed Abel. Okay, so he said, where's your brother? So on and so forth. Oh, I'm sorry, but just before that, when he gave the sacrifice, Cain offered the sacrifice, God did not accept it. Hevel offered the sacrifice, God accepted it. God says, God sees that Cain is upset. So God comes to Cain and says, why are you upset? And he said, I'm not upset. He tries to hide it from God. And he said, no, you should understand that sin is crouching at your door and it will attach itself to you. But you can rule over it. You can conquer this. Now what he's saying here to all of us is, it's always going to be there. That transgression that you did opened the door. So that inclination got you for 1 second, fine. And think about for Cain, who was only one generation, he's the son of Adam. God created your father. It's not that far to figure out that there's a God in this world. He wasn't arguing God. He was arguing, maybe God doesn't know, because God said, why? Why are you upset? Well, you don't know? So I guess you don't know everything. If you don't know everything, so and so on and so forth. Okay, that's where it all comes from. If God doesn't, all I have to do is find one stupid excuse, and then I can go crazy. I mean, look at Paro. Look at our leaders today. They see something they can hang their hat on, and they decide, okay, so it's not, I can do this and not that. Okay, instead of just following the simple rules here. So accordingly, do not be daunted by it. Though its armies be mighty, do not be afraid of it. Though its supporters be many. For its chief intent is to make truth out of falsehood. Its main purpose is to uphold untruth. Fake news, okay? That's what it is there for. How soon comes this fall? How swiftly? Its ruin. If you will but realize its weakness. As the wise one, Shlomo Melech, King Solomon, portrays it, there was a small city with a few men in it, and a great king came against it, surrounded it, and built great siege works against it. Now there was found in there one man who was poor but wise, and he by his wisdom delivered the city. You have to go to Ecclesiastes for that. Okay, so a human being is represented here by a small city, because he is the microcosm. His body, limbs, and faculties of the souls are depicted as few men. They appear to be few in light of the large ambitions of the man's heart, his constant desire in this world, and his inability and failure to achieve them. The evil inclination is portrayed as a great king, on account of its numerous forces, followers, and legions. Scripture says that the great king surrounded it, as the evil inclination encompasses all of man's affairs, both public and private. Built great siege works against it refers to the multitude of evil imaginings, evil thoughts, and shameful incidents through which the evil inclination tries to put a man to death, as we will explain further on in this gate with Hashem's help. Now, there was found in it a man who was poor but wise. That refers to the intellect. It is termed poor because its followers and supporters are few. As it says, yet no one remembered this poor man. This poor man's wisdom is despised. The substance of the story is that despite the intellect's weakness, when it combats the evil inclination, the latter quickly submits to it, and the threat posed to man by the evil inclination is easily dispelled. For a little truth overcomes much falsehood, just as a little light dispels much darkness. If you want to imagine that, you walk into a room and you flick your bick, you've still done. Only you guys get that. You light a match. And what happens is now you have light in the room, right? And once you have light, now you can see everything. The best way to do it is, you ever go into, anybody photography? Photography? No? You ever go into a dark room?
I know what those are.
Say it again?
I know what they are, but I've never been in them.
A dark room is very interesting. If it's black and white, I'm showing my knowledge here. If it's a black and white, a dark room, there's a red light in the dark room. So what happens is, once you get used to it, you can basically read a book in a dark room. But if it's color, absolutely no light can come in. None. You have to do everything in the dark. I guess you get used to it. I never did that, but you get used to it, they say, to operating in the dark like that. But it's that, what happens is, once I have a little light, namely the black and white dark room, I can do a lot once I get used to it. If I don't get used to it, I can't do anything. But it's that is what the intellect, or our Yetzer Tov, is sometimes to the Yetzer Hara. In other words, when the Yetzer Hara, let me just finish what I'm saying, then you can ask. When the Yetzer Hara is going strong, then our Yetzer Tov is not, my Yetzer Hara wants the hamburger, okay? The McDonald's hamburger. And it's using all of my senses. I'm hungry, I'm this, I'm that. And my Yetzer Tov is saying, no, it's not good. God, you're not breaking God's law, and so on and so forth. Well, once it puts up a little bit of a fight, the Yetzer Hara, while trying to fight a little more, will lose. Because my intellect will take over. That's what he's saying, yeah.
Do they still have those anti-exposure rooms anymore?
The what?
Those dark rooms. Do they still have those anymore?
Of course they do. That's how they develop. Oh, I mean, because today without film?
Digital.
Oh, digital.
Yeah.
Though I'll answer you like this: there are in the photography world, some people like.
No, yeah, it's for the.
Some people like it's vintage, but also for the real professional photographers, they like the old style because you get more better quality. They would claim.
Actual photographic film, and then
Yeah.
printing, photographic paper, what do they call it? Yeah.
Yep, they say they get better stuff from it than the computer, the digital stuff, and I can do more with the.
But still, you're using a laser printer to print either black and white or color on paper. It can over time start to flake off. I think we all see this
I
on
don't
a
know.
printed page of text
Right.
that's printed on the like that book here. I think this is actual ink printing, so it's not going to flake off. It saturates in the paper, but film, what the chemical coating on the paper changes, right? So I think it's very permanent.
So I would say like that. I think that you have some vintage people and some really professional, if you want to professional quality, unlike what you can do with your 35 millimeter, which has the great memories and well, it's not called memory. The chip, whatever the chip is called.
Yeah.
It's not called.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it's called anymore.
SD card
Yeah.
or something.
What's it called?
I think it's called an SD card. Or something.
Whatever the card is called.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, I think that's for the professionals. They would enjoy it much more. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah. So he says one can draw inspiration from the story to combat one's passions and to stand up to one's baser instincts with vigor and perseverance, because it demonstrates the inability of the evil inclination to stand against the intellect and the speed with which it falls before it. As it says in Scripture, the evil bow low before the good. So, and the beautiful thing about Rav Bach, I've said it many times, is that he quotes. Like any good rabbi, he can't just give a speech and expect everybody to just accept it. He has to give a proof text, and that's why he's going through Proverbs, which is Mishlei, or Ecclesiastes, which is Koheles, and so on and so forth. He has to give constantly proof text because his audience would otherwise say to him, "It sounds nice, but prove it." That's who we are. We're Jews. As Jews, we always say, prove it to me. I want to know where you're getting this from. Okay. So now we come to the next part. It says, this is doubts about the soul after death. So the first point on which the evil inclination will raise doubt in your mind and about which it will try to convince you that is that the soul cannot last without the body. And that It perishes when the body perishes, and after death has no existence. Why would that be important?
Consequences.
What about the consequences?
The what?
When you die.
He said consequences.
If you have the image of going to heaven or Gehenna, you have to pay for what you did, what you've done.
Right, and this doesn't give it.
Right.
Right, because there's no heaven, no hell. There's no payment afterwards. It's that old thought that says, "Eat, drink, and be merry, because tomorrow you're dead." Period. There's nothing after this. So if that's what he tries to convince you, that when your body dies, everything goes. Done. So it supports his view with imaginary arguments, which, when subjected to analysis, prove to be unfounded, but which it employs in order to induce you to seek passing pleasures and short-lived desires, and so that you adopt the model ascribed by the scripture to the proponents of such a lifestyle. Let us eat and drink. Oh, see that? Here you go. Let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we shall die. I told you I learned it before. Okay. Proof positive. And that's from Isaiah. If, however, and by the way, imagine that Isaiah was saying this long before it became something to, Probably, right.
There's always been people that
Right.
think in the manner of what he's saying here.
Right. If, however, you consult your intellect about this, it will refute this view with conclusive arguments, which were noted by the early ones and are found in the words of the prophets, peace be upon them. When it despairs of raising doubts in your mind on this point, it will try to make you doubt the Creator. After all, if I can't convince you that your soul is immortal, then I might also go for the Creator. Right? That's a much easier thing. It will say to you that this world is neither new nor created, that it was never different from what it is now and will never be different, that there is nothing in it more worthy of being a creator than a creation, that there can neither be a creator nor a created thing, and that nothing in it is bound to serve anything else, and everything is without beginning or end.
That's today's atheist argument.
Yeah. Today's atheist argument. This is also, what's his name? Aristotle. Nothing new under the sun here. Okay. That's Proverbs. Okay. If it encounters you with this, consult your intellect. The intellect will show you, based on the treatise of God's unity, the first book. Now he's advertising, okay? He says, go back to the first gate. Okay. The first gate of this book, and the untenability of this position, by proving to you that this world has a creator who created it out of nothing. Again, this is so important. You need to know your philosophy. If you don't know your philosophy, for all the atheists out there who like to pick on me, if you don't know your philosophy, then anybody can make things up. And so here I want to know how I know that God created the world. How do I know that this immortal being that has no beginning and no end created something? And then, of course, they say, well, where did he come from? What part of immortal don't you understand? No beginning, no end. You have to understand that we don't understand certain things. We understand that I came from my father, and my father came from my mother and father, and that he came from his mother and father, and so on and so forth. And we go back to that first source, ultimately Adam and Eve, fine. But that's where we start. Where they come from God. Where did he come from? I don't know. God was always here. What do you want? What do you bother me for? Okay? And now for every atheist out there, they say, well, that's a ridiculous argument. And I refer you back, atheists, to the first part of the course. Okay? Because I won't go through the whole course again.
Yeah, and if the universe is endless and never had a beginning or end,
right?
Well, how could that be?
Right.
You just asked me where God came from. Well, where did the universe come from?
So that goes back, and that's what I'm saying. You really have to. That's why when he was starting this book, he started with that. Let's understand who God is, what God is, what's the arguments. It's really an important part to go through. So I'm just giving you guys a heads up. Okay. And of course, you can always watch it on YouTube, Rabbi channel, Rabbi Nev. Yeah. So. What did I just say this? Oh, it's at the very top. Okay. Yeah. So Doubts about God's oneness. That's what it came out, right? When it despairs of raising doubts in your mind about this matter. In other words, I can't get you not to believe in God. Fine, a creator. And now I got you. That's not good. So I have to try something else. The Yetzer try something else. It will try to entangle you in various forms of associating gods with anything outside of itself, such as the belief of the dualists, the Christian Trinitarians, the naturalists, and the foolish astrologers with their various systems. If, however, you have comprehended truly that the Creator may be exalted as one and eternal, as we explained at the start of this book, again, go to the beginning, all these doubts will leave you. When it gives up hope of misleading you in these matters, see, it's going from, it doesn't stop, that's the point. It never stops. It keeps going, okay, you don't like this, I can't convince you, let's try something else. It will try to seduce you in respect to the duty of serving the Creator. It will say to you that a being serves another being when the latter needs the former services. Since the Creator may be exalted, does not need his creatures, and does not require their works, your service of him is meaningless and pointless. Right? If God doesn't need me, God doesn't need my sacrifices, why am I giving sacrifices? If God doesn't need me to pray, why do I need to pray? Right? It's a logical argument, isn't it? Mm. You're looking at me like, you're up a course, man. You understand what he's saying? Okay. If, however, you contemplate in your mind that what we discussed in the gate of reflection of God's favors toward us, and what we discussed in the gate on the corresponding obligation to assume the service of God, the question will be resolved, and you will take it upon yourself, God's service. Bottom line is, parents don't need the children. Let's use that for a second, okay? Parents do not need children. Yet, we are supposed to respect and do what our parents say. That's the commandment. Honor your parents. Okay, so honor your parents. Fine. Honor and have respect. Honor and they translate it badly when they say fear. It doesn't mean I have to be afraid of my parents. It means I should respect my parents. So I have to have honor and respect for my parents. And there are specific things I have to do for that. Well, just because when my father or my mother would walk into the room and I would get up off my seat out of respect for them, they don't get anything for that. Who am I doing it for? To remind me that I owe them something. I owe them my very life. That's what I'm doing it for. So the reflection of God is saying, I'm breathing. Why am I breathing? Because God gave me the ability to breathe. I'm going to the bathroom. Now, everybody thinks bathroom, what's the big deal about a bathroom? Well, you're in hospice. You know that people can't go to the bathroom sometimes. Okay? Anybody who's a doctor or has dealt with people like that, or when you get constipation, I think most people have had that once or twice in life. Okay, that's another time you go, oh, what's going on? And then when you finally go, you say, thank God. You know. Well, we said every time we go to the bathroom, we're thanking God for that because our system worked. And now, does God need that? No, God doesn't need that. I need to recognize that God gave me the ability to do it. So that's why I have to constantly thank God. It's not that God owes me. It's not that God needs me to do that. I need it. I need to. And that's what, again, go to that part. That's the second part of the book. Third part, actually. Reflection on God. I have to, when I look, I have to reflect on what's going on. And I come to appreciate God for God as my creator. Not as God that he needs me. He doesn't need any of us. If we would all disappear, if he took his mind off us for 1 second, we all disappear, it doesn't affect God. God is not affected by this whatsoever. If we do something good, God doesn't get affected. If we do something bad, God's not affected. God is perfect. But we have to understand that when we do something wrong, not following God's laws, we are distancing ourselves from our Creator. That's why it's evil, by the way. When I eat a cheeseburger, which I don't, but if I would eat a cheeseburger, It's forbidden for the, you don't understand, right? Kosher laws? Okay. If I would eat a cheeseburger, it would not, God would not be affected by that. What it does is it distances me from my Father in heaven, as it were, because my Father in heaven said, don't do that, because you're going to start the road away from me, and I want to be close to me. So it really is all my relationship with God. That's all it is. That's all it's about. To do it or not to do it, it's all relationships. So when you ask your husband to take out the garbage, depending on how fast he'll get off his behind to do it, will determine how much love you have for it. But he's doing something for you, right? And there's reciprocal agreement there. Not God. Not God. That's what we have to understand. God's not affected by us. One way or another, we're affected by it. Either we're going to go closer or we're going to go further away. Okay? Yeah, so that was, say it again? The last one. I did that good. So when it gives up hope of seducing you in these matters, it will try to raise doubts in your mind about prophecy, the prophets, the Torah, and the Torah's authenticity and necessity. This everybody loves to pick on. My God, this is the ultimate thing, because we can't get rid of everything else. We appreciate God. We know God created the world. Well, let's pick on prophecy. How did Moses know that what God wanted? After all, there's only a man saying something, leave me alone. And then the later prophets, Isaiah and so on and so forth, how did they know? Maybe they were just on some bad mushrooms. Maybe they were getting high, got some to drink. How do I know what they did? Can you prove yourselves? And now, and by the way, so we read the books and we see all the stories that they went through, right? All the miraculous things they said. Well, I can challenge you to say that if you look at Greek mythology, you'll see a lot of really great stories too. Okay? And if you go through all the different things, the Epic of Gilgamesh and all these other wonderful things out there, there's a lot of great stories. Every religion has a lot of great stories. Okay? How do we know they're true? We don't. We absolutely do not know they're true. We rely upon our tradition to say they're true. That's why when something happens in the Torah, the flood and so on and so forth, I don't need to have proof. God said it happened, it happened. That's why when they say they found the ark on, what is that, Mount Ararat, I say, great. I don't really care. When what's his name, James Cameron decided to explain the 10 plagues, I don't care. You could be right, you could be wrong. God uses different methodologies. It doesn't bother me. Is it proof that it happened? No, not really. The only thing that proves it happened is it's in my Torah. It's all I need to know. And why? And the question you have to ask is, why did God tell us it happened? That's a separate question. That's the real question. That's the only question, actually. Not did it happen or didn't happen. Of course it happened. By the way, you know how the flood happened? You know how you want proof of the flood happening for all these Epicursim out there? Everybody talks about the flood. The ultimate proof that there was a flood was every culture talks about a flood. The only thing that's different is the characters in the flood and why it happened. So we're right, they're wrong. I can't do much about that. Okay, fine. But it's that's how you know it happened. Was there a guy named Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Yeah, no problem. Everybody admits to certain things, but everybody talks about them. Again, all three major, well, they all copy us, so, but that's why they all have them. But it's if you look back in archaeology, everything works out. Now that's only for those who want to be maximalists. So those who want to be minimalists in the archaeological world will say nothing works out fine. But for the guy in the middle, they'll realize that there's proof there. And once there's proof, you can either deny, which is what people like to do, and that's what they're trying to do here. What the Yetzer would try to do, or you could go and say, "Look, the story is the story. I have no problem with it, and now it's just a matter of why they had to say it, why God told the prophet to say what he said. No problem. But we have to admit, we have to get to the point where we say that those prophets were real. I'll give you an example. You have the Apocrypha. Apocryphas, you have in the biblical world, you have the the Hebrew Scriptures, which will stop around Chronicles. I'm using my Torah for this. Stops at Chronicles. Then you would have the Apocrypha, which is the stories of Maccabees, Judith, Ben Sira, the wisdom of Ben Sira, and so on and so forth. And then you have the Christian Scriptures. So the Roman Catholics are the only ones that I know of who canonized the Apocrypha. I don't think anybody else did from the different Christian groups, and certainly we didn't. Okay, so what happens is I see something, and I see the book of Maccabees, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 books of Maccabees here. Okay, I look at that and I can read and say historically, oh, it's interesting, but I'm not going to take it seriously. I don't have to. It wasn't canonized. There was no proof that the writer was saying it correctly. Again, I don't deny the miracle of Hanukkah, but I'm not, and I used it as a text, but I'm not going to use it as a holy text. Okay, I don't have to believe it. So if they said something, who cares? Doesn't bother me. Those who hold that it is for the Roman Catholics, they have to really deal with it. But I don't have to deal with it. That's what I'm saying. You have different texts. So here it comes to this. It says, if, however, you oppose it with the aid of your intellect and fight it with the arguments mentioned earlier, in the 3rd gate of this book, and let's go back again, okay? All these doubts will be dispelled from your heart. You will understand the meaning of prophecy, the necessity of the imposition of the Torah, the prophet's mission in it, and the ways of inspiration to it. And we'll have to stop there.